So you gotta love when corporations untie themselves with the educational system to, preach to our young people, our young demographics that one day they're gonna be mindless robots working for our corporations. And, you know, you can't be critical, you can't question everything. You're just gonna go with the flow. You're gonna do exactly as I tell you. Don't question anything. Because if you might have critical thinking or question or know anything about our company or corporation, you might understand that we're evil and nefarious and really don't give a shit about anything that we say. So we're just gonna preach to the choir. You know how it goes. Unfortunately. Um, but apparently it happened, and this time there was met with vocal protesting. Let's just say that. So uh, there's a Twitter handle by the name of Ram Inc. And they're an anti-imperialist, anti-war organization that did a protest inside Harvard University's Kennedy School, where they had a guest speaker show up. And I find it funny that they named themselves Ram Inc. because at first I thought it was something for Dodge. I saw this randomly and I'm like, what does Dodge have to do with Harvard? Like I don't understand that. Why is a car company and Ram trucks? I don't know what's going on here. But then I looked at, yeah, it's actually an organization that's anti-war. Um, and it says, breaking, we just disrupted war profiteer and Raytheon executive Megan O'Sullivan, as she taught a class about climate change at Harvard University's Kennedy School. So, who exactly is this Megan O'Sullivan? Well, turns out Megan O'Sullivan is a Jean Kirkpatrick Professor of the Practice of International Affairs and Director of the Geopolitics of Energy Project at Harvard University's Kennedy School. She is also a partner at Strategic Consulting from Marco Advisory Partners and is the chair of the North American group of the Trilateral Commission. Makes you wonder if these are actual titles or if they're just, resume fillers. Like, people sometimes they stretch their resume and add title. Like, I've never heard of these things. Megan draws on her board experience in government, business, diplomacy, and academia to shed insights into foreign policy and national security, energy markets, the transition to a net zero global economy, and the geopolitics of the transition to benefit her students and colleagues, the U.S. government, global business, and the public debate. Yeah, that's something to think about. Megan has extensive experience in policy formulation and negotiation. She is currently a member of the Secretary of State Antony Blinken's Foreign Policy Advisory Board. Between 2004 and 2007, she was a special assistant to President George W. Bush and Deputy National Security Advisor for Iraq and Afghanistan during the last 2 years of her tenure. There, she was helped run 2 strategic policy reviews, one in Afghanistan in the summer of 2006 and one in Iraq in late 2006 and early 2007, which she led to the surge strategy. I'm guessing that surge didn't mean surge. We're going to get those troops out of there, end the wars, and fix our own economy. I'm guessing that's not the point of the surge. That's not the surge that they're talking about. In her job at the National Security Council, Megan was responsible for building consensus around new policy directions in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as overseeing their execution. Megan spent 2 years in Iraq, during which she helped negotiate the Transitional Administration of Law, which was underturned constitutional of Iraq from 2004 to 2006, and included the Status of Forces Agreement and Strategic Framework Agreement between the United States and Iraq from July 2013 to December 2013. So she works for national security. She's a foreign affairs associate, and she's an associate with war profiteers and warmongers. So yeah, makes sense. She's a warmonger. She's a war profiteer. She works, side by side to continue the advancements of war. And now she's at the Harvard School to talk about climate change. Which, by the way, all that background definitely paid off for her because now she's part of Raytheon. Kind of that's, revolving door policy. Once you're in government and, get your experience and help out the military contractors, you suddenly work for them. Just out of coincidence. And there it is, Margaret Megan O'Sullivan, who is a member of the Raytheon Technologies Board of Directors. She brings expertise in international affairs, government affairs, and risk management. Well, she's definitely going to take a risk today because she is going to be met with protesters of Ram Inc. And here's what happened in detail. Now, it starts off pretty slow, but then it actually builds up. So listen what happened.
We can see your war crime. Megan O'Sullivan, you can't hide. We can see your war crimes.
Megan O'Sullivan, you can't hide.
We can see your war crimes.
When missiles fly, people die, and O'Sullivan's profits multiply.
When missiles fly, people die, and O'Sullivan's profits multiply.
When missiles fly, people die,
And O'Sullivan's profits multiply.
I would actually be very happy to talk to you.
When missiles fly, people die.
So I don't know if you heard there. She's walking around. She's very confused. Then she comes. That's Megan right there in the red hair with the clicker and the board there. And you notice how on the screen there it says U.S. domestic and international considerations. I'm guessing they're considering who to bomb and who not to bomb. Who's good for the business empire and who isn't. Who's good for imperialism. That's the TED Talk I guess she's giving. But she's walking around all confused, and then she says, listen, I'm willing to talk to you guys and explain why I'm a warmonger, and then gets interrupted by saying, yes, she's a warmonger. That's the funny part of this. Take a listen.
when missiles fly, people die.
O'Sullivan's profits multiply.
I would actually be very happy to talk to you.
When missiles fly, people die. O'Sullivan's profits multiply. Missiles fly, people die. O'Sullivan's profits multiply. When missiles fly, people die. O'Sullivan's profits multiply. When missiles fly, people die. O'Sullivan's profits multiply.
In addition to her position as a professor at Harvard Kennedy School, Megan O'Sullivan serves on the board of directors of Raytheon, the world's second largest weapons developer. Moreover, from 2006 to 2007, Megan O'Sullivan served under President George W. Bush as Deputy National Security Advisor for Iraq and Afghanistan, guiding the Bush administration.
So now she has to be she needs to be escorted out. Because some people with signs and a guy who's reading her background is making her very, very nervous. I wonder why. It's just all a coincidence, right? That, she worked with a bunch of warmongers, profited off them, now works at Raytheon and goes back to Harvard Kennedy School to talk about climate change all of a sudden. Because, it's good for the environment when we blow up countries. Then they get reborn and we'll just eventually somehow plant trees under all that radiation. God's sakes. I gotta hand to them. This is probably the most excitement these kids are gonna get from this lecture. Because if I was sitting in that classroom and I've been through college, I've been through lectures, sometimes they do get boring. Sometimes they really do get boring. This is probably the most entertaining lecture you'll ever get in your college experience. So you hope for these people to show up. And this is actually a good protest, not, the pink hair. Ben Shapiro is going to do a lecture. Because he's seen a lot of those too. This is actually something with reason.
Invasions and occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan. Megan O'Sullivan was on the ground to oversee the Bush administration's troop surge, in which 20,000 new occupying soldiers came into Iraq. As a former member of Raytheon, and as one of the key architects of the barbaric invasion of Iraq, Megan O'Sullivan has the blood of hundreds of thousands on her hands. She directs a weapons company while teaching public policy. She directs a weapons company while teaching public policy. She directs a weapons company while teaching public policy. She directs a weapons company while teaching public policy. She directs a weapons company.
So that's something. That's something. And she's hiding in the corner, doesn't know what to do. So she has to get escorted out, and it continues. Because these guys are not going to let it go. And, you know, it's a proud moment. It's a proud moment that we actually have anti-war voices, because I thought we lost all of them with all this Ukraine nonsense, and, you know, the people that are supposed to be the most vocal on not building aggression to war and finding peace and stopping the military-industrial complex, all of a sudden now enjoys it and does a complete 180 to support military operations. Like, it's just crazy. But now we actually know that there is still a few voices out there, so I'm proud of that moment. And this is what happened after.
Board of Raytheon, stop profiting off of the death of innocent people.
I told them yes.
You want to learn from a war criminal. At least you're honest about it. At least you're honest about it. He wants to learn from a war criminal.
Good job, good job.
We're just asking you to leave the board of Raytheon.
It's not that hard, you know? You could just stop
600,000 dead
promoting
Iraqis.
genocide. See, the fact
Who's
that
the
you're not
architect of the
listening,
invasion of Iraq?
it shows that you're not actually
Excuse me, are
willing
you
to deal
part
with
of
this.
security? Board of Raytheon, stop profiting off of the...
So she's trying to find security. She's trying to find security. Because word got out. And those people were not wrong. They're not making stuff up. They're not just listing a bunch of random nonsense. I mean, we just read you the entire background of Megan O'Sullivan, her background in government and foreign affairs, and how she worked with the Bush administration to orchestrate military operations invading Iraq and Afghanistan. We've shown you the current involvement with Antony Blinken and all the war crimes that Joe Biden and Barack Obama have created. We've shown you that she's part of Raytheon. So all the stuff that they're stating is not random gibberish. They're actually stating the background, and those kids are now going to understand why exactly they're getting lectured by a person like her, like a character by her, about, you know, U.S. interventionism and try to preach more imperialism. And it's funny because the whole point of, they say that they're trying to teach the class about climate change by a Raytheon executive, which is hilarious. Let me just remind people this. The U.S. military is a bigger polluter than as many as 140 countries combined. Shrinking this war machine is a must. There's the kicker. There's the ironic kicker of the whole entire story. Not the fact that a group of people stormed into a classroom and chanted. That was probably the most entertaining those kids are ever going to get. I've been through the college experience. Let me tell you, lectures are not the greatest thing. Unless you get a really enthusiastic teacher, like one of those eccentric ones that want to teach and really passionate ones. Lectures are not the greatest thing. But anyway, it's just so funny because they're trying to teach about climate change, and she works for the U.S. military, which the military is the biggest polluter. Full circle. Full circle. Meg O'Sullivan, not only a war criminal, but also a contributor to the destruction of the planet, while also preaching about how we preserve the planet. So, congratulations, kids. You're getting more of an education, knowing about who this person really is, and from these protesters and from myself, than anything she's probably ever said. You probably learned more from this video than sitting in that lecture. Because it's a full circle. It's a bit, like George Carlin always said, it's a big giant club and we ain't in it. And it's a big club there to oppress you and to manipulate you and to override you and to manipulate your judgment and not give you any critical thinking, because any critical thinking might actually get you to understand who these people really are.